The legal profession in the United States demands rigorous requirements from students. However, it is regarded as one of the most prestigious and promising fields. According to regulations, students must pass a rigorous bar exam after graduating from law school to meet the standards for practicing law. Those who excel in this exam will have a bright future ahead, as statistics show that a lawyer in the U.S. can earn an average of $60,000 to $200,000 per year, a highly desirable figure. Therefore, law students are considered to have great potential. They are respected and highly valued because passing the bar exam means their voice will represent fairness and justice. However, nothing is fixed, not even esteemed reputation or highly regarded intellect. In the middle of the summer of 2011, a horrific murder case occurred, leaving everyone stunned as it involved someone who was supposed to represent the law and righteousness, a law student. Now before we get to the main content, please hit the subscribe button to support the channel. This is Lauren Giddings, born in 1984, in Laurel, a small city situated between Washington and Baltimore, USA. Lauren comes from a family filled with love and close bonds, including her two sisters, older sister Caitlin, and younger sister Sarah. The three sisters always show utmost love, care, and support for each other, especially since they were nurtured and cared for by their parents from a young age. Lauren's parents, William and Karen, are exemplary parents who always provided the best opportunities for their children to pursue their dreams. Because of this, Lauren stood out early on as exceptional in the eyes of friends and family. In 2008, Lauren graduated from high school, and with her hard work, she gained admission to Mercer University, a school known for its excellent education in the eastern United States, where she could pursue her dream of becoming a lawyer. Throughout her college years, Lauren studied diligently and achieved many academic successes. Despite studying a seemingly dry major, Lauren was known for her vibrant and cheerful personality, as well as her genuine care for her friends. Additionally, being an animal lover, Lauren naturally exhibited a gentle and compassionate demeanor, rarely raising her voice at anyone. In 2011, Lauren joyfully received her undergraduate degree after years of hard work. However, becoming a lawyer in the United States is not easy. To obtain a law license, Lauren needed to pass the Georgia bar exam, an incredibly stressful exam. Only after completing this exam could she turn her dream of becoming a lawyer into reality. Therefore, after graduating, instead of returning home with her family, Lauren asked her parents for permission to stay in Macon to prepare for the upcoming exam. With her considerate nature, fearing her family's worries, Lauren explained to everyone in her family about her need to dedicate a lot of time to studying, so she would be less in contact with home. Therefore, if they didn't hear from her, they shouldn't worry too much. Staying in Macon to study for the exam wasn't just Lauren's decision, but also that of many other students. To facilitate going to the university library, Lauren and others stayed in the dormitory area across from Mercer University. Here, Lauren would spend a few weeks studying and preparing for the important exam. Throughout this time, Lauren's family fully supported her decision, so they rarely called to avoid disturbing her while she studied. Occasionally, to inquire about her well-being, they would text Lauren and wait for her to respond when she was free. However, on June 29, 2011, Lauren's sister Caitlin felt something unusual from her dear young sister. Specifically, the last message Caitlin sent to Lauren on June 26th had gone unanswered for 4 days, and the message hadn't even been read. This had never happened before because even if Lauren was busy studying, she would at least reply to Caitlin's messages in the evening before going to bed. Worried, Caitlin immediately called Lauren to check on her, but there was no one on the other end of the line. With no other option, Caitlin tried to contact Lauren's friends to inquire about her situation. However, even Lauren's closest friends stated that they hadn't heard anything from her for the past few days. On June 30th, 2011, a close friend of Lauren decided to go to her apartment to find her. Upon arrival, Lauren's room was locked, but her car was still there. Knowing that Lauren had hidden a spare key outside for emergencies, her friend searched and found it, opening the door to Lauren's room to see if anything had happened to her friend. Everything in the room was unchanged, with silence prevailing. Observing around, her friend noticed Lauren's car keys, wallet, and phone were still in the room, indicating that Lauren had a reason to leave her home for such a long time. Because she wouldn't leave without these essentials, her friend realized something was amiss and called 911 to report Lauren missing. Upon receiving the report, the authorities quickly arrived at Lauren's apartment. After an initial examination, they determined that the door lock showed no signs of forced entry, no belongings were missing, and there were no indications of any struggle. However, Lauren's absence raised suspicions of an unusual circumstance. Consequently, they called in the Crime Scene Investigation (CSI) team to conduct a more thorough investigation to search for any significant clues that might be hidden behind the unusual silence of the room. When the CSI team arrived, they began examining Lauren's bedroom. They used a chemical substance throughout the room that reacts to certain substances, revealing them under special light. After inspecting the bedroom, the investigators found no traces of anything unusual. They continued their search and proceeded to the bathroom. They used the same substance in the bathroom, and after the examination they discovered some unusual stains. The authorities quickly secured the area and began searching the entire residential complex, meticulously checking every corner. Suddenly, an officer near the window detected a very familiar odor, a scent often associated with certain criminal investigations. Following this distinct scent, the authorities approached a waste bin outside the apartment. The smell became stronger, indicating that there might be something unusual inside the bin. Quickly taking precautions, the authorities approached and inspected the contents of the waste bin. The disturbing discovery was made. A bag containing evidence pertinent to the investigation was found. The body found in the trash bin was quickly taken for DNA comparison with a hair strand from Lauren's bed. The test results showed that both DNA samples were a perfect match, confirming that the body was indeed Lauren's. Immediately, the missing person case turned into a homicide investigation. Instead of searching for a missing person, the police now had to look for the remaining parts of the victim's body and swiftly pursue leads to apprehend the perpetrator. Upon receiving the grim news, Lauren's family was devastated. William, Lauren's father, expressed his agony, urging for the swift discovery of the remaining parts of his daughter's body and the quick apprehension of the merciless perpetrator. As for Lauren's mother and sisters, they could only cry and pray. Lauren's friends were called in by the police, and they stated that they last saw Lauren on June 25, 2011. On that day, Lauren had joined everyone for a relaxing outing after hours of exhausting exam preparation. However, Lauren had left early on her own. After that day, her friends didn't see her again, but they weren't concerned, assuming she was just busy studying at home. They added that Lauren was diligent and kind-hearted, occasionally visiting places for young people outside of school hours. Nevertheless, she was always punctual and never stayed out too late. Kate, who lived in a row of houses near Lauren's apartment, sadly told the police she never had a bad attitude towards anyone. All of them, her family, friends, and even acquaintances, couldn't fathom how such a lovely girl like Lauren could meet such a tragic end. The police checked the cameras of the apartment complex where Lauren lived, but they had not been working for a long time, and the landlord had not replaced them. Therefore, the investigation became more difficult because there were no surveillance images around the apartment. At the crime scene, Lauren's car keys, mobile phone, and wallet were still inside, with no signs of theft. This led the police to suspect that the perpetrator might be someone familiar with Lauren. Consequently, the police checked the data inside Lauren's computer to see who she had been in contact with before her death. In her email inbox, most of the messages were conversations between Lauren and friends about studying or with family, and there was no mention of anyone Lauren invited to her home on the day of the incident. However, the police later discovered an email from Lauren to her boyfriend the day before, mentioning that she suspected someone had been trying to break into her apartment because she had noticed some items had been moved strangely over the weeks without her touching them. The police deemed this a crucial lead, indicating that Lauren had been monitored, and the perpetrator had quietly broken into her home multiple times. But how did they enter the apartment without forcing the main door? The apartment windows were quite secure and not easy to climb through. Upon hearing about a murder case in the apartment complex, TV reporters quickly arrived to cover the story. At the scene was Mr. Burns, the person in charge of the case, who stated in an interview that the police were still actively searching for the remaining parts of Lauren's body. Landfills had been searched, and the river running through the center of Macon City had been checked. Additionally, the police used inspection cameras to observe inside the drainage pipes near the apartment. However, as of now, they had not found any trace of the victim's body. While filming around the apartment complex, the reporters also conducted interviews with neighbors who happened to pass by. A young man returning somewhere was also bombarded with questions by the reporters. It turned out he was Stephen McDaniel, a 25-year-old law student who was both a classmate and neighbor of Lauren. What was peculiar was that upon hearing about the murder case in their neighborhood, and learning that the victim was someone he knew, he didn't seem surprised at all. When asked about Lauren's character, Stephen describing her as very kind and independent. When pressed further if the victim had any enemies, he mumbled, "No, I and my classmates didn't know where she was. The only thing we thought was maybe she went out somewhere and someone intentionally abducted her, for instance." The interview proceeded normally, as calm as how he initially welcomed the interview, until the reporter asked Stephen, "What do you think now that the police have found Lauren's body parts in the trash can behind the apartment?" Stephen suddenly appeared flustered and almost collapsed. He kept saying, "I think I need to sit down. Body parts?" It was this interview segment that drew the police's attention to Stephen. They quickly contacted him to summon him for questioning to assist in the investigation. During the interrogation, Stephen repeatedly denied being close to Lauren, stating that he only knew her as a classmate and didn't care much about her. He also mentioned that he was currently focusing on studying because there was too much to prepare for the upcoming exam. Despite not paying much attention to Stephen's vague statements, the police were particularly interested in the appearance of this young man, and were quite puzzled. With someone who looked quite frail and weak like an ordinary bookworm, even appearing somewhat clumsy, how could they be capable of committing such a gruesome murder? After the interrogation yielded no further information, the police still harbored suspicions about this young man. Therefore, they decided to temporarily detain Stephen for a few hours while continuing to search for clues in the case. At the same time, the police obtained a search warrant for the apartments of Lauren's neighbors, including Stephen's room. At that moment, Stephen suddenly appeared somewhat nervous and uneasy. During the search, the other apartments showed no signs of anything unusual. However, when the police reached Stephen's room, they unexpectedly discovered that he had a master key, a tool that could unlock all the doors in this apartment complex. Upon receiving this information, the investigators quickly returned to question Stephen. At that moment, he admitted to stealing the master key from the landlord and breaking into 2 adjacent apartments. However, he only stole a few C.M from each apartment. In response to Stephen's confession, the police had grounds to arrest him for burglary and theft. Meanwhile, while Stephen's interrogation was underway, one police team examined the laundry area of the apartment complex and found a dirty red-stained blanket suspected to be blood. Another team searched Stephen's room and found a HX.W brand packaging but no SAW inside, some flash drives and a woman's underwear in the drawer, a torn bedsheet with several red stains. The evidence was immediately seized and sent for forensic examination. While awaiting the results, the police examined Stephen's flash drives and were astonished to find countless videos and images of underage individuals in inappropriate situations, not to mention that some videos had been deleted. Other suspicious items were also found at Stephen's home and brought to the station, including a Japanese sword, a SHARP object, multiple CONDOM, and tools used for illicit activities. This indicated that Stephen, a law student, was in fact a deviant and had a propensity for deviant activities. The items found at Stephen's home during the search all contained Lauren's DNA, and the BLADEC dot as .in.g matched the model of the BLADE found in the laundry area. Additionally, after recovering several deleted video segments from his flash drives, the police discovered they were all voyeuristic recordings of Lauren's apartment from the outside. The police speculated that Stephen may have used a small recording device attached to a long pole to stalk outside Lauren's apartment on multiple occasions. The investigators continued to question Stephen more aggressively in an effort to force him to confess to his heinous crimes. However, despite such clear evidence, Stephen remained silent, refusing to admit anything. Investigators continued to psychologically pressure Stephen, explaining to him that even if he didn't confess to Lauren's case, the evidence against him at that moment was damning. He was charged with multiple offenses including unlawful entry theft and SXUAL exploitation of minors, so he could face multiple charges. Despite this, Stephen still kept silent, showing no intention of confessing to what happened regarding Lauren's case. Knowing him to be a stubborn criminal, investigators persisted, offering not to pursue the charge of exploiting minors if he would tell the truth about Lauren's disappearance. After hours of contemplation, Stephen finally confessed to his crimes. The details he revealed were chilling. In reality, Stephen loved Lauren unrequitedly. However, at that time, Lauren had a boyfriend and she was quite clear about her romantic relationships, so every time Stephen met her in class, she behaved very polite. Even in the library or around the residential area, she didn't give Stephen much opportunity to approach her. However, because he was so infatuated with Lauren, Stephen decided to stay in Macon and even rented a place near where she lived to become her neighbor. Every day Stephen pretended to be studying diligently just to catch a glimpse of Lauren, but perhaps that wasn't enough for someone with psychological issues like him. In his apartment, Stephen often satisfied his personal desires by looking at pictures of Lauren. With his perverse desires, Stephen couldn't resist his appalling intentions towards Lauren. One day, when Lauren wasn't home, using the master key he stole from the landlord, Stephen successfully sneaked into Lauren's room. He admitted to the police that at that moment he was only in the room of the woman he loved and stole her underwear, touching her belongings to satisfy his personal desires. Until one day, Stephen found out that Lauren was planning to move out. He became extremely frustrated and angry at the thought of not being able to see Lauren anymore. Subsequently, he decided to sneak into Lauren's room again, although his exact intentions remain unknown. Because Stephen did not confess this to the police, but the events unfolded as follows in detail. At 4:30 a.m. on June 26, 2011, Stephen, dressed in black attire, wore a mask and gloves, and snuck into Lauren's room. At that moment, Lauren was fast asleep in bed. This time, he boldly sat in front of Lauren, admiring her sleeping form for a while. He claimed he only intended to watch her and then leave, but as he was about to leave, a creaking sound from the floorboards startled Lauren awake. Seeing a stranger in her room, she panicked and screamed loudly, afraid of being discovered. Stephen then leaped onto the bed, covering Lauren's mouth and grabbing her by the neck. In the struggle, Lauren managed to remove Stephen's mask, realizing he was her neighbor. She pleaded weakly, "Stephen, please stop!" Both fell off the bed with Lauren's leg trapped under the bed frame, rendering her unable to resist Stephen. Stephen admitted that due to the panic, he didn't release Lauren's neck but continued to apply pressure until she stopped moving. Realizing that Lauren was dead, Stephen panicked and dragged her body into the bathroom, leaving it there. He then rearranged the items in the room and returned to his apartment. Stephen spent the entire day researching methods to dispose of a body on the internet incessantly. On the evening of June 26, 2011, Stephen returned to Lauren's apartment with a saw. He used it to sever Lauren's head and dismember the rest of her body. More horrifically, Stephen claimed he divided each finger, bone, and other body parts of Lauren's hand and threw them all into the toilet to flush away. Stephen placed the victim's body parts into several black duffel bags and then scattered them in various dumpsters. After committing the crime, Stephen continued to go to the library to study as usual. When people began to notice Lauren's absence, Stephen pretended not to know anything and joined friends in searching for news about her. Stephen was confident that Lauren's body parts had been taken to the stinking landfill, where the smell of decomposing bodies would blend with the garbage odor, making it unlikely for anyone to discover them. However, his sinister plan failed because, coincidentally, several days later, due to seeing police blocking the entrance, sanitation workers overlooked the trash can in the apartment complex area. On August 2, 2011, Stephen was convicted of killing Lauren, and the case went to trial in April 2012. In the high school courtroom, Stephen vehemently denied raping Lauren, stating that he was very upset when Lauren intended to leave the apartment, unable to accept living away from her and not seeing her anymore. That's why that night Stephen sneaked into Lauren's house with no intention of raping her. However, this was only Stephen's testimony, and whether he actually intended to do so or not, only he knew best, and the second person who might have known was Lauren. But she was no longer alive to reveal it if she did. Ultimately, the most important evidence for the verdict was confirmed by the head of the forensic department, who stated that there were no signs of sexual assault on Lauren's body. During his confession, Stephen also tried to justify his heinous actions, describing himself as psychologically troubled and expressing remorse, saying that he was deeply saddened by what happened to Lauren and did not expect forgiveness from her family, stating, "I can never deserve that." After so much pain, Lauren's family expressed the desire for Stephen to fully pay for the crimes he had committed. They couldn't sentence him to death. Instead, they wanted him to live out the rest of his days in prison in the most torturous and agonizing manner possible. That was the only thing they could do for Lauren's soul, their unfortunate daughter. On April 21, 2012, Stephen was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. With legal knowledge, he attempted to appeal his sentence in 2018. However, escaping fate proved difficult as the appellate court rejected his appeal. After the trial ended, Lauren's family organized a memorial service for her at the Macon church, where Lauren used to attend weekly services. As for Lauren's friends, they each brought flowers and photos of her to the apartment complex where Lauren lived and studied to become a successful lawyer. The place she departed from forever. They expressed endless grief and longing for this beautiful and talented girl whose fate was so tragically cut short. Every day, everyone could only feel heartache and say, if only a little more time after the exams, Lauren could have become a criminal lawyer, something she always longed for and desired. Just a little more time and she could have started a new life and achieved new successes for herself. But now, everything is just regret. The deserving happiness has been lost, leaving behind immense pain for those left behind. It's truly heartbreaking for Lauren, a future lawyer with many unrealized dreams. It's so sad for her family to lose such a talented daughter. Lauren could have had a bright future after these final exams, and lived happily with her family and her boyfriend. However, Lauren couldn't see herself in glory. Instead, she left this world in extreme agony at the hands of a sick individual like Stephen McDaniel, and this is Creep Factor. Thank you for taking the time to watch the entire video, and if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more interesting contents.